This is the Freeheel Life Podcast, episode number 185. I'm your host, Josh Madsen, coming at you from the Freeheel Life shop in Salt Lake City, Utah. What's up? What's up? What's up? Good to be back. Happy Monday, everybody. And stoked to be back at it again, talking about the greatest turn on snow. Hopefully you got some of those turns in over the weekend, as usual. And we're going to hop right into this. So, talking about newsroom and notes. Thanks to everyone who checked out last week's episode, number 184. I did frequently asked Telemark questions in 2023. And I did a follow-up public live stream on the YouTube channel with some additional questions if you wanted to check that out as well. Great feedback from some of the clips I was putting out. And I'm picking up some good info about Telemark lessons out there that I wasn't aware of. Great stuff. So I'm glad that I'm starting to get some feedback from those kinds of things, because they're helpful for me to find out about, throwing a question out there, where to get a Telemark lesson. Should I get a Telemark lesson? And then to have all these different people from around the United States, especially, but around the globe saying, hey, we can teach Telemark here. Here's the price, and really just helping me kind of get an updated view of stuff. So definitely we'll try to share some of that in future episodes, because I think that's really important. Obviously, we got to have good instruction and access to instruction. But yeah, thanks for checking that out. If you didn't, go check it out. Episode number 184 on the YouTube channel and all podcast platforms. This week, we're open for appointments as usual, Monday through Saturday. Definitely do that. We've got demos mounted up and waxed, ready to go. Brand new lineup of TX Pros and TX Comps in the Scarpa NTN boots. We do rent boots and skis only. So if you're traveling in and maybe you brought your boots, but you need skis, you can book that ahead of time online, or hit us up at customer service at freeheellife.com and we'll get y'all ready to go, especially with the holidays coming up. Probably won't do appointments on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And then we're also going to be out of town in February for Midwest Telefest. And that was my next item, just to remind you every single week. Midwest Telefest, February 9 through 11 at the Porcupine State Park. Sponsored by Higher Love, yours truly, Freeheel Life, Porcupine Mountain Ontonagon Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. Check out more info at midwesttelefest.org. And I just saw the trophies for the chili cook-off, legit. So make sure, if you're a chili cooker of sorts, you're getting your recipes ready. Get those crock pots ready, whatever you're cooking in. Apparently, because we're driving out to this, we are eligible. I don't know where the hell we would cook chili. And I don't know if I'm even a chili cooker kind of guy, but maybe you'll see some Freeheel Life chili there. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. World Telemark Day, March 2nd, 2024. Put it on the calendar. Just get a day on the calendar to go Telemark skiing with your friends. Get a local gathering together. Email podcast at freeheellife.com if you need help about how to put this together, a meetup. I got a sweet email last night from a friend up in Washington. Sounded like they had like 200 people last year, and I'm psyched to get them some info going. So it's starting to trickle in. I know it's December, and that's the end of the season, but do not forget the most important holiday on Earth, World Telemark Day, always the first Saturday in the Northern Hemisphere in March. Get after it. So today, we've been getting, as I've started doing more YouTube content, starting to get a lot more health and fitness type questions, and trying to sort of feed into that, listen to what you are asking for out there. And today we're going to do top 5 fitness tips for the Telemark season with my partner, Kate Galliett. Kate's been a personal trainer and coach for 22 years. She earned a Bachelor of Science in exercise science and has earned a multitude of certifications to help her develop the holistic approach to body care that she takes today. Her focus is on helping her clients achieve the best health and fitness of their lives. She serves her clients locally in Eastern Utah and around the world through her online workout and lifestyle program. began work as a trainer in a commercial gym setting before opening her own facility in the suburbs of Chicago. And you can find out more about what she does online at fitforreallife.com. And I'm super excited to have this conversation, and hopefully it'll be something helpful to you. So let's hop right into it. All right, welcome back to the podcast, Kate. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Well, for those of you that have seen Kate on the podcast before, listened to her or some of the videos we've done, we're always talking about Telemark Skiing at home, and she's got some really good ideas. I'm always sharing stuff with her about maybe how Telemark skiing works, because she's a beginner Telemark skier and we've been skiing the last couple of years, but we're always talking about how fitness can relate to that. And so today we're going to be talking about the top 5 fitness tips for Telemark skiers that we've most recently come up with, and wanted to hop right into that. So thanks for being here.
My pleasure. I'm happy to be here today to share some health and fitness wisdom with you.
Tell the audience a little bit about kind of how we came up with these, and you know, like I said, we're always talking back and forth about this kind of stuff, and you're obviously thinking about it from more of the fitness side. I have zero background in that, so I'm always saying funny words that are not fitness oriented, and I guess I don't know. How do we want to set this up, kind of going into this, of how we came
Yeah,
up
well,
with it?
I think a great way to kind of broach the subject is like I ask you, what do people do when they're getting ready for a ski day, for a ski season? And then you usually tell me, and I'm like, okay, we could do that better. We could make this more holistic in that we will encompass the whole body. We will encompass all of the systems within the body. We will think about how the body works relative to the environment that it's in, and we will give it signals that help it respond the way we want it to. And um, I always like hearing what you share with me because it's fun to hear how people have come up with ways to be ready for the season, to build fitness, to maintain their body. Um, and it gives me kind of a place where I can drop in because whenever I talk to a group, I just talked to a group of employees last week. You don't know where everybody's at. Some are super into it. Some are super basic. They don't care. Some are just doing like what their older brother taught them 20 years ago. And so it's fun to hear where people are at so that I can go, okay, hopefully I can bring some things that meet this range of people where they are and don't sound too out there and don't sound too ridiculous and sound really like a lot of what I do, like really practical and doable things. So hopefully we're going to do that today.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's something we've talked a lot about um, over the years, and I think I fall in that category. I definitely don't follow health and fitness like you do. Most of everything I would know about is, if I had never met you, would just be kind of this dated version of, okay, here I'm going to go stretch, or I'm going to do this. And I think what's been really interesting is sort of modifying and learning. There's obviously, it's a lot how, high school sports 25 years ago versus now. It's a different
Yeah.
world, and the things that people are doing and have learned about fitness, and like I was saying, even stretching or things like that. As I've implemented some of these things in my own life, and fitness and skiing, I think it's really helped. So, well, let's start off. I think we're gonna kind of do this in like almost like a countdown format. Is
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't you roll us into number 5?
Okay. So the number 5 tip for telemark skiers this season for your fitness is you need to recover better. You really do. And your recovery starts the moment you're done with your workout or your day on the hill, but it continues until the next time that you're going. And now, if you're only going to like a ski vacation once a year, hang with me here. We're going to be getting ready for the ski vacation and then coming back from it. But you still have other active things you hopefully like to do. But recovery is a whole lot more than just go rest for a day after you're done skiing or after you're done with your workout to get ready for skiing. And so I want to talk with us first about how to recover better. So a lot of the old thoughts around recovery include rest and stretching and maybe some things like, making sure you eat a post-workout meal. But a lot of people focus on that rest and stretching thing. Either they're like, I'm super sore, I don't want to move the next day or later that day. Or, and they're thinking if I do move, I should do like the foam roller and I should do some static stretching. And look, if static stretching feels good to you and the foam roller feels good, by all means, there is benefit in the palliative effect of that. Like it's going to feel good and that's good for your body, but it's not actually going to get you where you want to go. We know that foam rolling and static stretching don't change the length of the tissue. They don't break up knots and scar tissue. They don't do what we were told 20 years ago that they did. And that's a good thing to learn about, because the more we learn about how the body works, the better we can make our process, in this case with recovery. So rather than resting on the couch or just being inactive the next day, or laying on your foam roller, or doing just basic static stretching where you maybe pull your heel to your butt to stretch your quads out, or sit on the floor and reach and touch your toes to stretch your hamstrings out. Rather than doing that, we know now that movement is actually some of the best stuff that you can do. And you might think, well, what kind of movement? Well, there's a video on the YouTube channel on Freeheel Life that has a demonstration exercise you could do. So feel free to root through the archives of the Freeheel Life YouTube channel to find that. It was an episode I did of the podcast a year ago, maybe. But besides that, without having to get too much in the weeds with that, you want to move your body through its entire range of motion. So that would mean maybe doing some hip circles, maybe doing some squats, getting up and going for a walk, maybe 30 minutes in the morning, the day after you ski. These are all going to be things that help to do a couple of really important things. One, move waste material out. So a big part of why we feel, yucky after we're done with a hard training day or a big ski day is we've got buildup of waste material all around our muscles, and we need to get that out. We do that through the lymph system. The lymphatic system is what moves out all the waste material so that it then can be drained out through the body's detoxification pathways. The only way that lymph moves is through movement. So you need to get moving to move that out. You also need to bring in new blood flow, because that's how you're going to bring nutrients to the areas that you have worked and that you've created little micro tears in the muscle because you trained them really hard or you skied really hard and they need to heal properly. And the best way to do that is to bring fresh blood flow to the area. And again, your heart will help with blood flow, but movement will help even more. So getting up and moving at a minimum just to walk for 30 minutes the next day. And a more of an involved aspect would be to maybe move all of your joints through their ranges of motion, do basic calisthenic type movements that you might remember from high school gym class, and keep that body going rather than just sitting or being stationary in one position. So that's the first thing, is we need to get moving after we're done with our training day or a big ski day or a big ski vacation. The second thing we need to do is remember that the body is more than just mechanical. So everyone thinks, oh, I'm going to stretch out, I'm going to do the foam roller. And that's mechanically trying to make an impact on the muscles. But your muscles and joints are also being influenced by the foods you eat, the minerals you take in, the macro and micronutrients that you get from the food and other activities that you would do. For example, taking an Epsom salt bath after your big day is a great way to get magnesium into your body and to help your muscles relax. So if you're taking an Epsom salt bath, it's really simple. Draw a bath, put a cup or two of Epsom salts in there. It's a great way to get a big dose of magnesium. Now, if you can't do that, there's some other things you can do as well. You can take an electrolyte supplement after you're done with your workout or your big ski day. There's so many brands out there. Find one you like that doesn't have tons of garbage ingredients in it and bad sugars in it, and use that. You can also make sure to eat things like potassium-rich foods, which is most of the vegetables out there, including potatoes and bananas, also coconut water. And then making sure you also salt your food. So using salt, sodium, is a great way. And just putting it on your food or putting a little bit in your water is a great way to also make sure you're boosting your sodium needs so that your body can get those minerals in and recover well. So those are our two big ones, I would say. Mechanically, get moving. Internally, get those macro and micronutrients in by getting some minerals on board, taking an Epsom salt bath, maybe doing some electrolytes. And, don't forget, eat some food and try to eat some fresh, unprocessed food, because that's where you're going to get the most amount of nutrients.
It's a very different apres-ski than no. I'm imagining like people are thinking, oh, I just got done skiing. Okay, I'm going to drink some beer, some whiskey. But maybe
beer
that's
is not a bad choice of all the choices, because you're going to get the carbohydrates. It does have minerals in it. It also has some alcohol in it. So that's not exactly the most ideal health, practice to take on. But, if you want to do that and then maybe go have the bath once you get back to the Airbnb or to the chalet or wherever the heck you're going to, that could be a good option.
I like that. No, recovery, I think that's something people often don't think about. Especially as we're getting older, And I know a lot of the listeners, they're probably more in my age bracket, maybe just a little younger and older. Um, it's so important. I mean, for us to have enjoyable ski days, especially if you're going back to back, like you said, you're on a ski vacation, you're trying to ski, maybe you're on a 5-day ski vacation, you're trying to get 3 out of 5 days, and hit the snow just right. I mean, that's super important. And I can attest to the movement aspect. I think that's been the biggest one for me because you think it's like this for whatever reason. Thinking about like foam rollers or static stretching, it's funny how movement really makes a lot more sense. And I can attest to the fact that really does get your body feeling better.
Yeah.
Um, because you're actually moving. It's not like you're just like you said, elongating the tissue and then hoping that it stays that way or whatever. So,
Right. Exactly.
okay, cool. Well, I love that. I think that's a good start. So, recovery. What's number 4?
Number 4 is on the other side of your ski day. You need to warm up better. So, one of the things I teach a lot in my coaching practice is too old is a myth. We are never too old, and it's never too late. But what do people always say? They're like, well, now that I'm getting older, it's getting harder to get going. No, you're just actually understanding now what it is to be a human. I always have this, I love when I see folks who are like in their 20s who are telling me how you just need to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm always like, now being well into my 40s and having trained clients who are in their 60s for a couple of decades, I've got some data on the folks who are a little bit older. We all get away with a lot in our 20s. You can bounce back really quick. Your body can withstand a lot of hard effort put onto it, or lack of recovery put onto it. You can go out and drink all night after your big ski day and get up to the next day and you're like pretty much fine. It's not that you are too old to do that as you get older. You just have a much more acute awareness of what your body actually needed the entire time, and you no longer have that buffer of youth in front of you. So we need to warm up our day better. We need to get started more thoughtfully with our workout or with our ski day than we did when we were younger. And all that means is the way I look at it is I'm not even going to do static stretching before we start, but I'm going to think about what in my body am I going to use today? Well, my joints are going to need to get worked, obviously, to make telly turns, and my heart rate is definitely going to go up to some degree. And, I need to get a feel for my balance for the day and that I feel like stable and, solid in my body. And so I might think, well, okay, I need to get those things warmed up. So I would do that by approaching my ski day with small, slowly increasing kind of exposures to those things. Maybe start with, granted, I'm not going to be doing like the hardest runs, but I would start with like the easiest green run. And I would think about being aware of slowly raising my heart rate by making it a little harder each run that I do when I start. And just tuning into my balance and feeling myself find my awareness within my body that feels like, okay, everything is secure and working in order with each other. And then ramp my way up to whatever main objective I was going to do on the slopes that day. Now, I'm a beginner skier, so that is a thing that I've only implemented for a couple of years. Josh, you have a lot more experience. Would that sound accurate to how you start your day, or would you have something to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think that's really good. And I think sort of this incremental build process is I think I've naturally done that in the past. And I think as we were talking over things before the episode, it makes a lot of sense. One of the first things I always like to do when I get to the hill is, generally speaking, unless it's like honestly, I like having good snow days, but I don't like the rush of it, because when you get there, it's like a powder day and everyone's just like, you're going zero. Literally, you get out of a car and you get ready, and then it's just, you're at 1,000 miles an hour for the next 3 hours. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Those days are fun too. But one thing I like is being able to get to the resort, get my gear on, feel good, take the lift up, And usually the very first run for me is making some parallel turns, getting the feel of the gear that I'm on that day. Cause a lot of times I'm skiing a different pair of skis. I might have swapped my boots from what I was using the last time. And I want to kind of work the kinks out. And I think psychologically for me, that not only gets me in tune with my equipment that I have that day, but it also sort of gets my ankles flexing, my hips moving, my knees bent. And the reason I do parallel turns, people are probably thinking like, wait, why are you doing that? That's really for me to sort of get in tune with like the type of ski I'm using, edge to edge. And I'm not saying I'm not going to usually take an entire run like that. It's usually a mixture of trying different types of telemark turns. Again, getting that movement of my feet together, my feet separated. And for me, that's just a really good way to get small snapshots of the overall movements I'm going to start making throughout the day. So when I start skiing hard, everything's sort of firing at once. So I think that's a good way to do it.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you for the support on that one.
I know. Well, and it was funny because we were talking before we started recording, and I think that's one of those interesting ones where when you said that, kind of broke it down from the fitness standpoint. I think it's funny because I think a lot of us have those routines, but maybe don't think about why we do that. So I think it's really important to, incrementally get into the day. I can't emphasize that enough. And I see that a lot too. People get hurt a lot in skiing because I don't think they take the time to do some of this stuff, both before, during, and after skiing, and their body just can't hang, and they end up getting broken.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's avoid that. What do you say we go on to number 3?
Let's do it.
Okay, number 3. In order to be fit for telemark season, you have to be healthy. So tip number 3 is to keep your immune system in order the entire year. And like what you were just saying about people have these routines, but they don't think about them. I think a lot of us have bodies that work for us that we don't think anything about until they don't work for us. Like, never are you more grateful for the simple things than when you're laying in your bed sick with the flu and you're like, oh, I'm missing everything. I can't wait to feel better. Man, it's so nice when I can take a full breath without choking on my lungs. We do that with our bodies. We're like, oh man, I didn't even appreciate my body till I got low back pain, and now everything hurts and I can't move and I'm totally weak. And that's when those people usually call me. But we can improve that by saying, oh yeah, I have an immune system. Everything I do is either supporting or going against it. And let me try to do as many things as I can to support it. So for example, you mentioned apres. Okay. We all know alcohol is not healthy. I don't care what study you read, the mental gymnastics they do to try to tell you drinking regularly is healthy is 1 to 2 a week is probably healthy. That's about it. But regardless, there's an aspect of enjoying community and social time. And if you do that through drinks after a day on the hill, awesome. There's a health aspect to being around other people and being social. However, if we do that all the time, and so that's going to be a negative on our immune system, and we're not getting the sleep that we need, that's another negative on our immune system, and we're not eating all that well. Those are some of the 3 big pillars, I would say, to boosting and supporting the immune system. And if you're consistently and chronically missing on all 3 of those, don't be surprised if you get every cold that comes along during the year, and that really kind of causes a hiccup in your ability to have a great ski season, So to keep your immune system strong this year, we all know about vitamin C. It's very, very good for us. And ideally getting that from a whole food source. But if you don't have access to oranges and tangerines, remember that berries also have a lot of vitamin C. So you could have berry smoothies. You could have berries in your yogurt in the morning, or keep them in the freezer and just have a cup of them every day. There are ways to get vitamin C in your diet. There are also supplement drinks now that contain vitamin C that, again, just look at the ingredients. If you feel good about what's in them and they're not too junky for you, no questionable ingredients, you could use a vitamin C drink. But it's not just vitamin C that we need. We need all of the big vitamins to be working together. So making sure that we're eating a mostly whole foods, unprocessed diet as best as we can, mainly because you're going to get, vitamins A and vitamin D and vitamin K and these things that have really important jobs in our body for making sure countless systems work well. Then we're also going to get the micronutrients that come through vegetables and proteins. So whether you eat animals or plant-based protein, you're going to need those to also do things in your body. on top of all of that, of a diet that mostly consists of whole foods that are generally unprocessed, and you're just avoiding excessive amounts of sugar and junk in your diet, is also going to help you have good mitochondrial health. Remember, your mitochondria are the powerhouse of your cell. They're the energy production factory of your cell. When they don't work well, nothing works well. And when nothing works well, it's a lot harder to fend off anything you come in contact with. Make sure you're eating a well-balanced diet. You're getting your nutrients from foods that you could include in your diet on a regular basis. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. I mentioned that at the start of this. If we aren't getting good sleep, we are not getting the restorative effects that we need. And I do know that as people age, they start to struggle with sleep. A big part of that has to do with chronic, ongoing, long-term stress from jobs or families or things like that, but also health issues that are starting to crop up because they haven't addressed some of this stuff earlier and the systems are starting to go awry. And then, of course, there's the ubiquitous problem that we all have, that we're watching Netflix at night and we're on our phones all night and we're constantly being stimulated right up until the moment we go to bed, which is not helpful. But I want to give you a tip you might not have thought of before with regards to getting better sleep to boost your immune system. And it's this: you need to get out and see sunrise light without glasses or contacts on and without sunglasses for at least a minute, as many days of the week as you can. Your body sets its circadian clock by natural light, not by light that's in the house over the head, light outside. Even on a gray day, your body will set its circadian clock based off of that. When it sets that circadian clock, that means it tells all the cells in your body what to do and when and how much of everything that they need to make, like hormones and cortisol and melatonin. Melatonin is the one I want to highlight here. You will start making melatonin when you get sunrise light, and it will be made in the correct amount for what you need. Your body then will hold on to that until a little bit around sunrise, a little bit before, or sorry, not sunrise, sunset, a little bit before sunset. So then it will know to start releasing that about 4 hours before you're going to go to sleep. Melatonin helps you sleep. So those of you who've supplemented with melatonin know it can help you with getting a good night's sleep when you're really struggling. You could actually make more of your own simply by starting to see the sunrise every day. Just get out for a minute or two, look out the window, go outside, do that on a regular basis. And then if you can, catch the sunset as well. You don't have to sit and watch it for 20 minutes, but open the drapes if they're closed, go outside for a minute if you can, and allow the sunset light to come into your eyes without glasses or contacts or sunglasses on, and or onto your skin. So allowing your face to show, or if it's, the dead of winter, maybe you pull your coat off for a minute and just let the sunset light go into the photoreceptors in your skin. And those things are going to help you to set your clock better, which will in turn help you to sleep better. So if somebody is worried about their immune system this year and they're like, man, I really don't want to get sick, that used to be me all the time, I would say a better balanced diet, making sure you're getting those vitamins and minerals into your diet through whole foods, and then getting better sleep by catching the sunrise and the sunset is going to be the way to go.
I like it. Sounds like a good life too. I mean, honestly,
Yep.
a lot of this, a lot of this, a lot of this stuff, I think is, we've talked about this a lot, and I think when you hear it seems reasonable, and I think a lot of us have just gotten away from that, especially like I said, a lot of us as we get older, you get busy, we've got phones, you're plugged in all the time,
Yeah.
and it's funny how simple things like seeing the sunrise. I mean, you could even tie that into to what we're saying, in terms of skiing, get out, do a dawn patrol, go hike before work, get the sunlight in your eyes as you're hiking up. I just taught a guy how to telemark this past week, and he lives in the Midwest in St. Louis, and he's excited to go hike up in the mornings before work,
That's cool.
on a 300 vert hill. So I think there's a lot to be said for, just keeping healthy and strong, and how to just build that into your daily life. So uh,
Absolutely.
I love it. What are we on? Are we on number
Number
3?
two.
Number
Number
2.
two.
Okay,
That
okay,
was
number
three.
2.
We're on to number two. All right. Number 2 tip for telemark skiers this season is, if you don't already have a fitness practice outside of skiing, get one. Not because your sole intent is to make your fitness practice, so weightlifting, cardio, yoga, Zumba, whatever you're into, not because you're going to try to translate that directly to the hill, but because you recognize that the fitness is going to be necessary on the hill. And moreover than that, because this is what I always take it back to, you have one life and you need a body that can support you so that you can keep skiing for the rest of your life or however long you think you want to ski for. You will really struggle to do that if you aren't maintaining your systems. Your systems respond favorably. So your heart, your lungs, things that keep you alive, your brain, your muscles, your joints, these are all going to be responding to whatever signals they receive. And if you do not have a fitness practice in place, you are not sending a lot of signals that help these things to maintain themselves. And that is where body breakdown, decomposition, things starting to go off the rails really starts to happen. So if you don't have a fitness practice yet, here is a basic template you could start with that tick these boxes and you will pretty much cover your bases. Could you get more complicated? For sure, but we're not going to do that right now. 2 days a week, you should be strength training. So body weight, if that's all you've got, go to a gym if you have one, get on a program. There's tons of them online, and even in-person trainers have programs you can get on. Find a program and get on it. So that's 2 times a week. Every day of the week, get out and walk. Just for 5 minutes. It could be longer if you have the time, but you need to move on a regular basis. So take a break from your work, or if you're retired, take a break from whatever you're doing during your day. Get out and go for a walk. Then also 2 times a week, and again, all of these more would be better, but let's just start with the basics. Also 2 times a week, get ready, steady state cardio in. And that would be 30 minutes if you're just starting out of just going at a pace that you could sustain, where you are comfortable. It feels good. It does not feel strenuous in any way. Do that 2 times a week. Then work in some other little practices that might help you based off what you struggle with. So one of my clients right now is working on their balance because they can tell that their balance is not as good as it used to be. So they're doing some yoga, they're doing some little balance training, and that's going to help them. I've got another client that I'm working with that is really struggling with some muscle tightness. And so we're working actually on some breathing activities to help release some of that muscle tightness to give them more freedom in their body. So that's their daily practice. You can tailor it to whatever you would like. The thing I see people do a lot, and that Josh always reminds me of, is people are trying to look for the exact exercise that will replicate what you do in a telemark turn. And I have plenty of them that get you close, because when I take Josh for workouts, he's like, "Oh, that one's good. We should show that to telemark skiers. That's a good exercise." But they're not. It's not the same. You can't. And you said that just about skiing this past week, right? Like, it's the fitness will transfer. The skill of the movement is not the same as what you do on the hill. Is that right?
Yeah, I think if you really want to get better at telemark skiing, you need to telemark ski.
Yeah.
Uh, it's and I've been reading some stuff on this too, where it's like, your practice should mimic the thing, and in this case, you can't really mimic telemark. I mean, yes, you can do lunges and you can do these things, but I think there's so much, all these nuance things that are happening, like these little dynamic things that are happening that I even noticed. I was doing some pretty beginner level skiing this week, and just noticing the tension on my muscles, on my quads.
Yeah.
And it's not so for instance, like a telemark turn, the tension on my quads is not identical to when I do a lunge,
Yeah.
like with weight.
And I've given you a lot of lunges, and there's several that you're like, that's close. I like that one a lot. We should use that for telemark training for us for the season, but it's not the same.
So I agree with what you're saying. And I think, we were talking before the podcast, kind of brainstorming on this stuff. And, I think, for instance, something that makes, when I'm skiing hard, especially as I get into the season and I'm skiing harder and I want that cardio, um, you know, things that cross over well. I do jujitsu a lot, and I like to run. Well, I don't like to run, but I run. These things where I can feel the crossover of that, and also I think the mental crossover of just being like, "Hey, I'm physically getting pushed here, where I'm breathing hard or trying not to breathe as hard."
Yep.
Um, and just the stress, those things translate well, but they're not exact. So, yeah.
Yeah. So that's our number 2. Set up that basic fitness week for yourself and stick to it regularly, because it's got far greater effects than just on the hill, and it will give you fitness for the hill. But it's not, you're not doing it because you want that to transfer over to the hill. It's because what you get from it will carry over.
Yeah. And the only thing I want to add too is, try to find things that if you're someone who's in the backcountry a lot and hiking, you may want more cardio style stuff, and if you're a resort skier primarily and you're skiing lifts, you may want to gear, your strength training and some of this other stuff towards that. And I just wanted to say one last thing is telemark itself. I think that in and of itself is excellent exercise,
Mm-hmm.
and this gentleman I was out showing the ropes of telemark this week. We were talking about that, especially at our age. S- You know, the guy owns a business. He's busy. This is such a great way, and he's, like I said, he's from an area where it's like 300 vertical feet at his local hill. He loves the idea that he can go out for an hour and get that mental puzzle of that's mixed with fitness and strength and all that stuff. So I think if you are someone listening out there and you're interested in telemark, I've always thought that's a really attractive side of it too. Is obviously telemark skiing is amazing just as is, and it's fun, and the turn is great. It's a craft that you have to learn forever, but it's also a really good fitness, and I think that's a great part of it.
Absolutely.
All right, well, we've made it to number one. What do we
The
got?
number one, this is the one I am certain everybody is waiting for. The number one tip for telemark skiers this season to keep their fitness up is please take care of your joints. This is a turn that requires your knees, yes, but also your pelvis, your hip joints, and your ankles to work really well. And you will feel it when they do not work well. Granted, you'll feel it in your daily life if those things don't work well. So, if that wasn't motivation enough to take care of these joints, but you really care about telemark skiing, let that be the reason that you take care of your joints this season. Now, today I wanted to give a tip, two tips actually. One, a more structural physical movement focus, because remember, bodies are always responding to the signals they receive. And some of the signals a joint is going to respond to are what loads are you putting on the joint? And then how is the body responding to those loads? And that's part of what I teach people how to do. And I'm going to teach you a little bit of that right now. But the second part about responding to things is your internal systems, what you're feeding your body, what your body is doing in terms of making inflammation. Those are going to be also a factor in how you feel. So let's start with the first one. To take care of your joints, and this is an exercise that's going to take care of, remember, hip joint, knee joint, and ankle, and they are not isolated. So I really want telemark skiers to remember that. It is not just your knee joints. Your knee is always like when I get someone with knee pain who comes in who's like, hey, my knee's all screwed up and I need to make it stronger. I will look at the knee and go, okay, well, does it work the way it's supposed to? Usually, if it doesn't, it's because the culprit is above or below. The hip or the ankle are often the root of the problem. The knee just gets caught in the crossfires, basically. So we want to remember that all pieces are working together. So this exercise is going to help you with that. So to do this exercise, we're going to just talk you through it right now. If you're at home, you can do this. Join in with me right now. Go to a stair, like your stairs in your house or your patio step or your front door step. Stand on the top step, hold onto the railing so you aren't falling. This is not a balance exercise or anything like that. Put your foot flat on the top step with your toes right at the front edge, not hanging off, just right at the front edge. Take your other leg and dangle it over towards the step that's below. Bend the knee of the grounded leg, the one that's on the top step. Bend it so that the knee comes out past the toe and you lower yourself down so that the heel of the dangling leg just gently touches the step below, and then use that grounded leg to push back up. So the leg on the top step's doing all the work. You're going to lower down so that your heel of your other leg touches the stair just below you, and then you're going to push back up to the top step. Now, your knee should go over your toe, your hips are going to come forward, and your ankle is going to flex a lot. And a lot of you are going to be like, I couldn't go that far because I'm too stiff in some of those joints, or it hurt to push back up. And that's because all the muscles around the knee are not strong in that position. Or you're not going to be able to keep your balance because your hips are going to be wobbling all over the place because they don't have the stability and strength that they need. But just by practicing this exercise, even if I gave you no other coaching than that, if you did that starting with 10, if it was really hard, or 20, if you're like, yeah, I could do that, okay, do 20 of them on each leg. You do that a couple of times a week for a couple of sets, you're going to see some improvement on how your hips, your knees, and your ankles feel. So that's our physical structural one. But now we need to talk internal. So a big thing that starts to come up in our age bracket and up, so we're in our 40s and everybody on up who's older than us, is you start to see things like joint irritations, like arthritis and degeneration. Here's the deal. We all have degeneration. It is not necessarily correlated to the pain that we might feel. So just accept the fact that you're going to have degeneration in all of your joints, including your hips, your knees, and your ankles. What you need to do is make the area resilient, but also support from internally to say, okay, I'm going to have degeneration. I might have arthritis starting to develop. What I can do internally to offset that is to make sure inflammation in my body is low. Remember, inflammation is not a bad thing. So when inflammation rises, like after a workout and you're sore, it's because your body's trying to heal. When you get really achy and sore when you have the flu, it's because your immune system is responding and trying to heal. So we do need inflammation to bring heat to an area, to bring blood flow to an area, to help shuttle away the lymph, like I was talking about earlier. But runaway inflammation is where we get into trouble. And we can help ourselves with that by, again, going back to our diet and looking at what are we consuming. Now more than ever, it is important to keep an eye on the ingredients that are in the products that you eat, because processed foods, anything that comes in a box, basically, okay, which we all eat those, like there's crackers and chips and all kinds of stuff that we can eat that can be a part of a balanced diet. But when those processed foods are high in things like high fructose corn syrup, things other than just basic sugar, so other types of sugars that our body has to break down, fake sugars like aspartame and Splenda and sucralose, and then also some of the chemical additives that get added to some of the more processed foods. Our body has to do something with that, and it's not got the pathways to do what it needs to do with those as well as it would with like a whole food, for example. So if this is perhaps a time for you to maybe just take a look at your diet, you don't have to be drastic, but if you're eating a lot of sugar, it might be helpful to reduce that a little bit. And if you're eating a lot of processed foods, you don't even have to swap out the processed foods. Just look at them and go, okay, what's in the ingredients list? If there are lots of kinds of sugars and lots of chemicals that I don't really know what they are unless I look them up, see if you can swap that for a closer to natural version. I can attest, because every week in the grocery store, I'm looking at everything they have, because I have clients who are like, I need an option for this. I need an option for my kids. I need an option for fast dinners. What can we heat up really quickly that I don't have to cook? So I'm looking and I can see stuff out there. And there are lots of options out there now that are just a better version of maybe whatever you were choosing before. But keep that in mind. The foods we eat are literal building blocks for our cells. And if we're eating a diet that is raising our inflammation, that's going to make it harder for our joints to feel as good as they possibly can. So keep that in mind as you're going through the winter. Take a look at your diet. Think about where you can make some positive swaps that are easy to do, that we're not asking you to like radically change your life here, but where can you make some simple swaps to just reduce the inflammatory load in your diet? And that's our number one tip.
I love it. I think people are definitely going to want to hear that one too, because people are always asking about knee and their knees and their muscles and 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 thanks for giving us all these tips, because I think this is a really good holistic view of like the body, different things we can think of as telemark skiers that are going to make life more enjoyable this season, future seasons, and I know I know for a lot of us, we want to be able to do this for a long time. And, it's really kind of part of a lifestyle, what you're doing on the days that you're not skiing, the days before you go skiing, and what are you doing after? And I think you covered all that. So I really appreciate you putting all this together. It was amazing.
Absolutely. My pleasure. I want people to feel free in their body to do whatever they want until they keel over dead. And there's a lot of things we can do. And I love sharing that with people. So I'm happy to bring these tips to everybody. And hopefully it also sparks some interest for maybe some rabbit holes they can go down of like, wait, that one was really interesting. I know nothing about that. Let me go learn more. So hopefully that's what folks will do today.
I love that. So where can people check you out these days? Do you want to lead them anywhere with stuff you do or your book or any of that stuff?
Yeah, if people want to get in touch, you can find me at fitforreallife.com. Again, that's fitforreallife.com. You'll find all my quick links to like my books that I've authored, which are back there, which teach you how to build a body you love to live in. I've got an online course. I've got writing I do on Substack and various other shenanigans that I'm up to on the internet. So yeah, folks can find me there.
Love it. All right. Thanks for coming on, and looking forward to doing more of these in the future.
My pleasure.
All right. See you later.